Why does it say Areopagitica on your left hand?
It says Areopagitica because I thought you might bring up the subject of censorship. And John Milton wrote a pamphlet called Areopagitica. And I thought I'd forget it.
I'm sorry, perhaps I shouldn't have revealed that you write on yourself.
It's not a tattoo,
It's a side of you we haven't seen.
And if you had brought up the subject of censorship, I would have quoted John Milton at you. See.
Let's pretend I have. We have a moment left.
All right. Well, I think he said it in Areopagitica.
I thought it was Italian photographers that you struck more frequently. There seemed to have been some... Wasn't there some incident once where you decked a photographer, one of those paparazzi who was following you around popping films?
Well, I joined the long club of people who've taken a poke at a paparazzi, because they are the most grievous, horrible things. They crowd around you. Yeah, yes, and insult you and one thing and another. So,
is there a penalty for striking them?
There is indeed, yes. Yeah. Yes, I was in a play in London, and here we go again. Dear. As you know, you were an actor.
Well...
Dressing rooms aren't all they should be. And bathrooms are usually quite some distance away. And it was after the show, and I'm looking for a refined way of saying I was...
Let's see, maybe I can help you with that. What about, I was putting the cat out?
Yeah. And a voice said, "My name is Kate Hepburn." And I had to pretend to do fine things with a washer. And I was introduced to her and met her, and she was, in fact, I think, directly responsible for me getting the part of Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah.
But she did discover you doing this peculiar...
Well, I don't think she ever...
And then went around raving about you. I'm sorry.
She arrived in Ireland 3 weeks ago, unannounced.
Yeah.
And one of my daughters thought it was the local gypsy woman coming up the stairs. Kate, what? Wait, I mean...
she really carries something with her.
What can I say? I mean, I say all the cliches in the world. I have... I mean, I love her. I have nothing but total admiration and affection for her. And I really do. I will do anything for her. And everything that anybody says about her is quite true. She's one of the most remarkable women I know. And, oh dear, what can I say? Oh, there's one thing people don't know. She has a right hook.
In the boxing sense?
In the boxing sense. She once arrived in my caravan while we were making The Lion in Winter. And she said, "You Irish mutt," and took a great dig at me. And I ducked that one. She said, "I've worked with the biggest Irish mutt of all times. That was Spencer Tracy, but you are a bigger Irish mutt." And I ducked that one again. And then finally she got me with the third one right on the ear. And I don't know why. I do know why. And I didn't know why at the time, but I dressed up. I put blood on my ear and a splint and walked onto the set. And she said, "Never mind, pig." She calls me the pig.
P-I-G?
P-I-G. I only hit the people I love. So I recommended to her that she should hate me for the rest of the picture.
At least till the movie's over.
Yeah.
What had you done?
Well, I think she thought that the makeup man, if she was doing a close-up, was in fact in my dressing room having a nip. He probably was. Little sherbet.
Can you still ride a camel?
Well, I haven't had the opportunity.
Well, we have a little surprise. No, we don't. that would be repulsive, wouldn't it? But
yeah.
I was told that you removed most of your... what do you call it in England? The first time you were taught to ride a camel, that a great deal of epidermis from one's backside was
I lost a great deal of skin
sacrificed.
from my arse, yes.
Yes, that's it, exactly. I couldn't think of the English expression for that. What made you agree to do all those things in that film? You were hurt several times, weren't you, in Lawrence of Arabia? Didn't you fall from a camel once?
Several times, yes. Well, no, once, twice. It's part of learning to ride a camel, because if you fall off a camel once, you don't really want to fall off it again. And if you do fall off it again, you never fall off it again.
And the best thing is to climb right back on the hump and before you... You know, they say get back in the saddle.
Did I understand?
Get back in the saddle on it. It's an American expression.
We have an...
No.
Going to the bathroom.
I never should have started that. No, on horseback, they say always get right back in the saddle, and I was trying to make a parallel with the camel who has a hump.
Yeah.
Strange to see that little of a movie. Does it bring back the desert? Do you miss the desert? Do you ever go back?
No, I've never been back.
2 years out of your life, was it?
Not too advisable at the moment, is it? 2 years, yes, I was just thinking, there was it brings back a lot of memories for me, and I've not seen the film, ever, all the way through.
What?
No.
Why not?
Well, I don't find it profitable to see...
See yourself all evening?
No.
Gee,
but I did have a curious experience on that, and this is an experience that I think is not shared by many people. David Lean has ever said to me at the end of the 2 years, Peter, we want to pick up one or two little bits and pieces. And we went into a studio and do face this and face that and take off the Arab hood. And then when I saw this particular sequence, it was a scene at a well. And I was looking there, and I was 27. And then it cut to my friend Fred, Cairo Fred, Omar Sharif, and back to me, and I was 29. And then back to Omar, and back to me, and I was 27 again.
They edited it together that way?
Yeah, he needed a shot to put in the middle, so I went 2 years. And it was quite odd, because, I mean, I'm sure to the audience, generally, they didn't notice, but I did. They were haggard and...
What had you done to fall apart in those 2 years?
I'm sorry, but I noticed that shot of Audrey Hepburn and things that you had there.
Yeah.
Such a relief after Richard Burton. I had to fall in love with Richard Burton and a camel, then I got Audrey Hepburn.
You're called upon to do strange things in your career.
Can I read you something?
Sure.
I carry this around.
Sure.
If I can find
It's
it.
one of my all-time favorite movies, that one, and Lean is maybe...
Thinking of ruling class. This film is so crude that it scuppers itself in the first reel. It is so long, so slow, and labours so hard to put over each trivial point that it will never convince anyone over the age of 9. A screenplay so naive that every speech seems to belong in a little balloon, as in a comic strip. Peter O'Toole, usually one of our most magnificent actors, acts like the poor man's Leslie Howard. My guess is that he saw at once what a ludicrous script he had and gave up the struggle. For the rest, it is amateur night, with loads of amateur psychiatry, amateur armchair strategy, amateur politics, global variety, and an amateur American's ad writer's idea of the average Briton and the British role in world affairs. It lasts eternal hours and interminable minutes, not to mention an interval that turns the whole thing into my longest ordeal so far in any place of entertainment. Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia?
Yes.
I thought it was a review of The Ruling Class.
That was a trick to get your attention. After 2 years and 3 months, that's the first notice that David Lean and I read.
That's amazing.
I started off as a young, curly-headed Irish youth and came out a grey-haired old man. And David and I read that. Yes.
That was the thanks you got.
Yes, I keep this.
What does that confirm something you've always suspected about people who write about films or about yourself, or why do you keep it?
Oh, it's salutary. And if anyone starts quoting notices to me about whatever I do, I just hook this out and then don't tell them it's Lawrence of Arabia.
How do you guys do it? You Irish actors who can stay up all night knocking back the sauce and go on the set the next morning and give a brilliant Academy Award-winning performance.
Stamina.
Is that it? It's a miracle to me. I mean, if I have 2 jars or cups of Ovaltine, I can't do the show. Do you do that, or is that exaggerated? Do you stay up all night, and has anyone ever stayed up all night and then reported to work the next morning the way you and Burton are supposed to be able to do?
I was just thinking, we have this reputation, a few of us. And one day, Peter Finch, a man I admire enormously, who is also accredited with these gifts, and we were looking at a painting and having an argument about whether this particular piece of paint had been put on with a palette knife or a thumb. Mm-hmm. And Finchy said to me, he said, we were like a couple of rather dusty academicians discussing pigmentation. He said, you know, son, he said, we shouldn't be caught doing this. He said, oh, we're finished. We should be out raising hell.
Ruining your ruining your reputation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But can it be done to stay up all night boozing and then go to work the next day and act?
Well, if it's true, I mean, I'm not going to deny it.
Please don't.
And anyone who knows me wouldn't dare vindicate what anything I do. Ignorance may, if they want to asperse it, I don't care. But if, in fact, I did do this, say on a film like Lion in Winter,
yes.
If I was, if I made a friendship, which I know will endure, both professionally and personally, with Kate Hepburn, if at the same time I could cast it, work night and day on it, play one of the hugest roles I've ever encountered, and be footless, raving drunk at the same time, I must be Titanic, so I'm not going to deny that at all. No.
True. I see, because it would be immodest to claim to be able to do all of that.
Yeah, it would. Mind you, there is one little thing. Richard Burton and I, once we were filming Beckett, and we were being almost choir boy-like. We were so angelic. And we were both on the wagon, and we'd finished our sequence, and then unannounced to him or me, we didn't tell each other, we both went on an enormous bat. And then they found that there was a little bit of the sequence missing, which involved no words, but it needed our physical presence. And so search parties were sent out, and I was found somewhere or other at 3 in the morning and put into a car and take to the studio. And they found Richard in a different part of the town, and he was shoved in the car. And I got to the makeup room at about 7:30, and I was 110. And I said, do the best you can, Charlie. And he did fine things with ice and one thing and another. By about 8:30, I was about 65. And 4 or 5 cups of black coffee later and recovering. And I was feeling quite good. I was at about 50. And I walked out of the dressing room door, and coming down the corridor was the oldest Welshman I've ever seen. And it was Richard.
Can you sleep now, Peter?
I still have a lot of trouble.
I've read of you as one of the classic insomniacs of all time.
Yes, yes, this is true. Yeah.
You've tried everything. What are some things you can tell people to not bother trying that you've tried?
Fairy fingers. Don't try that.
Fairy?
It's a thing that sort of tickles you.
Yeah.
Something,
it's concealed in the mattress or something. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lay off the fairy fingers, folks. And
there's a pillow you can have stuffed with hops. Stuff you make beer with.
Yes.
Doesn't smell like beer, alas.
And stuffing the pillow makes you tired enough to go to sleep?
It's supposed to make you sort of drift off. I wouldn't recommend barbiturates to anybody. I don't know. I suppose the best, if you can afford it, is a nice bottle of wine. That's very good. But then I want another bottle of wine after that. No.
Yeah.
No.
Do you worry about yourself, your health? Do you have the actor's preoccupation with your body?
Not at all. Nothing at all. No. I never put on weight, no matter what I eat. This is why I think Audrey Hepburn and I were cast in How to Steal a Million, was because we had to play a scene in a cupboard. We're in a cupboard for 11 days, and I think with Audrey, who nibbles a lettuce once a week to keep slim, and I, who can't get fat at all, we were the two thinnest people who could fit into the cupboard, I think.
Got the part on your thinness. Yeah. I think we're ahead right now. Very nice to see you. I know how you must hate this. The first thing that's on my mind, and forgive me for opening with this, let me get it out of the way, is that there was an incident some years back where you appeared on a talk show, quite briefly. To give the news slowly, you came out, said a couple of words, and presumably passed out.
Yes, it was in New York.
Yeah.
And
Was it the
I
man's,
can't remember the gentleman's name.
the host? Is he still in the business?
I truly don't know.
I could tell.
Talk about butterflies. I've got armor-clad bats.
That will all pass.
I went onto the show, and I was asked a question, which I answered, I think. I don't know what I said. I don't know what I'm saying now. And I was asked another question, which I believe I answered, and I woke up in a dressing room. My glasses were broken, and I was replaced by a talking dog. It's best illustrated by a very eminent English theatrical producer who was pathologically shy. And he would refuse to go to any parties. He was invited to a country house, a rather grand country house, and all his friends persuaded him to go. And he finally went, and during dinner did all the wrong things. He passed the salt and dropped it in the soup, and taken to bed that night, he hadn't got the nerve to ask the butler where the lavatory was.
The bathroom, we say here.
The bathroom. Well, it wasn't a bath he needed, actually.
No.
And
it wasn't to lave himself either.
no. And during the course of the night, he wanted to go to the bathroom, and not knowing where it was, he didn't even know where the light switch was. And so he was stumbling around, and he knocked over what he assumed was a carafe of water. And, oh dear, done it again. Went pootering down the hall, trying to find a light switch. He found the light switch, switched it on, and all over a 17th century fresco were inky hands.
Oh.
He'd knocked over an inkwell. So he went back into his bedroom, packed a bag at 3 o'clock in the morning, and left. And then his friend said, you must go back and explain this. It can happen to anybody. And he's a very reasonable man, and he'll understand. So about 3 months later, he did, in fact, go back to the country house and knocked on the door. And there was that formidable butler again. And he said, can I see Colonel Breech-Loading Staircase, whatever his name was. And he said, yes, sir, do go into the gun room. So he went into the gun room, and there was a large chair, and he lowered himself into the large chair, and on the large chair was a poodle, which he sat on and killed. So he left again. And the poor colonel arrived to find a mangled poodle and no explanations.
And that's how you feel tonight?
That's how I feel.
All right, see.
There isn't a poodle on this chair.
You were an altar boy once. I find that odd. Well, I don't actually know what an altar boy does or did, but...
Prompts nervous priests.
Is that it?
The thing that made me want to do it first was I was lying in bed reading it, and I kept on falling out of bed laughing. It's an hilarious script, and I've seen audiences falling about, not out of bed, we don't supply beds, but laughing. And then I read a little more, and I was deeply disturbed. Deeply disturbed. Unquiet. And I read back to say, did I really see that? And indeed I did. And then I read on. And before I could get into my role of being deeply disturbed, suddenly I fell out of bed again. I was laughing again. And I did this classical error of trying to categorize it. And I out Polonius. Tragical, comical, historical, philosophical, farcical, epistemological, and I did 7 cerebral somersaults and wound up on my metaphorical arse. And
What do you want to do before it's all over? If they tell you you can only make one more film, or do you have that one dream project that you want to do? You've played Hamlet.
Indeed, I have. Yes, several times. Disaster. Well, I'm at the moment taking that lovely American word, sabbatical. I've lost edge and appetite for the thing I love most, which is acting.
You've lost that?
Yes. Temporarily, I'm sure. I'm so inconsistent, I may be rehearsing something next week, but at the moment I have lost it. So I've taken time off to think. I don't know what. Might scribble a bit. Archaeology is an interest of mine. I'm told that being fed up is a state in which 98% of the population are in, and they continue going to their jobs. This, of course, is valid and true, but I think that I, who am a performer, if I'm without appetite and edge, I'm going to bore those 98% who are without edge and appetite anyway, so I should just get out of the way for a while.
That's right. You don't encounter their job, but they encounter yours.
Right. Yeah.
Except if they wait on you badly or
Yes.
process your bank account wrong or whatever
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. But there it is. The one thing that's unenviable about this profession where you appear in public is that if you feel rotten,
no matter how the wind's howling,
God.
the state of your poor head, you have to go on and do it.